All right, this is, all right, now I have to hit, got it here. Where's my cursor? There it is. Got it. Okay, good. Welcome, everybody. I am Jef Lambdin, and this is the second professional development for teaching artists. The first one we did in February, and this one is about the business of being an ArtsGrow South Carolina teaching artist, the South Carolina Educational Standards and Teaching Artistry. Now, yesterday, we had two guests. We had Roger Simpson from the Department of Education, and we had teacher from, and I've frozen. I'll wait.
Okay, you're good now.
All right. I live in a rural area, so every once in a while I might freeze, and my colleagues will jump in and fill the dead air until I come back. I apologize for that. But today, as Kimberly has already introduced herself, and she's the co-pilot of this, because the pilot is Amanda Noyes. She is the K-12 coordinator of the South Carolina Arts Commission, and she's running the ship today. Kimberly is the Arts Learning Director of the South Carolina Arts Commission. So they are the people who are making sure everything goes well. And Jan French is coming on. Excellent. And Davelin is Today's webinar will be 2 hours long from 4 to 6. Oop, I froze again. Today's webinar will be 2 hours long from 4 to 6. And it is the second half of a 2-day webinar. We designed today's event so that a topic is introduced. And after the topic, there's a short time for questions. Today, your questions can be typed into the chat. So I just activated my chat so I can see them. Or you can electronically raise your hand, and you do that by going down to the bottom with your cursor, hitting reactions, and raising your hand. And what that does is it puts you to the top of the queue so I can see. But you are right there in front of me. You are right there in front of me with your hand up. So let me get my hand down. Oh, it's down. Okay, good. If we could have slide 1, please, Amanda. Please realize that this is a 3-year project of professional development for teaching artists. And we just gotten the first one, and this is the second one. This webinar is about the South Carolina standards. And yesterday we learned about the standards. Today we're going to use them. I'm going to show you how I use them, and then I'm going to ask you to do some things with it. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions after this. Here's my contact information. That is my cell phone number. That is my email. And I am happy to field any questions that you have. All right. And can I have the next slide, please? All of these workshops are being recorded. And after the fact, you can find them on the South Carolina Arts Commission YouTube channel. And Kimberly, if you would tell us how to do that, please.
Yes, absolutely. So if you go to the South Carolina Arts Commission's YouTube channel, which I'll share with a link in the chat box in just a moment, and you can see it right here as well on the screen, there is a playlist that is for teaching artists. And in that playlist, you'll find all the videos from both our February webinar series and this month's webinar series, and any future webinars that we may have for teaching artists. So keep bookmark that playlist and keep it close by so that you can refer back for those videos at your convenience.
Thank you, Kimberly. And if we could have slide 3, please, Amanda. All right, this is our focus today. Actually using the standards in an arts integrated lesson. How an artist thinks about it, how do you approach it, how do you use them? And that's what we'll do. And if we could stop sharing for a moment. I want to take 1 minute. Yesterday, Anita asked a question that we weren't able to respond to. At the end of the webinar, she was asking, how do you know what the people who hire you need, right? Is that a good phrasing of it, Anita? Yeah. And this is what I do. In my marketing, I tell the prospective clients what I usually do. And then I say, and I am willing to design a program around any idea that you have. It's impossible to market to every idea and every possibility. So if you demonstrate your strengths in your marketing, right? And I talked about that in the first webinar. And then you also in your marketing information say, and I also am flexible. If you have a great idea, I'm happy to work with it. Does that make sense, Anita? Yeah, is that helpful? Because again, you cannot market to every possibility. So market to your strengths and then let everybody know you are open to their ideas. Okay? All right. Now we together are going to do a theater exercise to start. Back in February, we did a similar exercise, but this one is a little more rigorous. And in theater, a lot of times we are asked, not just in Zoom when it happens, but to be still. See, I was playing when I do that. Kimberly and Amanda immediately go, do we need to jump in? Right? Okay. Now, when I'm still, I'm not stiff. I'm not holding my breath. What I'm doing is I'm gently formed into a shape. And I'm taking little tiny breaths that no one can see. So I want you to try that. Sitting here, everybody, I want you to convince me that your screen has frozen. So just stop moving. Show me you're in a pose so I know that you have made a choice, and take little tiny breaths that no one can see. Excellent. Okay, you can relax. You can relax. So I know my screen isn't frozen. Right. Okay. Now, what I want you to do, I want you to look at this picture that I have. And Amanda, if you'll bring up the next slide, please. All right. Around the world, there are many statues or public sculptures. Sometimes in theater, we use them as inspiration for our frozen poses. All right. We use the technique of stillness and we copy a person or character in the sculpture. And as you can see, each of these characters has a definite expression. This particular statue is found in Chicago at the Navy Pier. It was created by J. Seward Johnson Jr. All right. And I want you to look closely at this picture, and I want you to answer for yourself the following question. What do you notice? What do you see? What's going on in the picture? And if you would, type a response into the chat so I can see your responses, what you're thinking as you see this. What do you see? What do you notice? Everyone is in movement, yes. Dragging along, yeah. Having fun, yeah, because you can see in their expressions. They want to be there. The small girl is very off balance, absolutely. The boys are going two different directions. The girl is a little surprised. They're stuck in time. Yeah, it's like a snapshot of the motion, and that's why I like this. And when I first saw it at the Navy Pier, I was just so moved by it because you can view it from any direction and it is active. All right. Now, if you would go to the next slide, please. These are close-ups of some of the characters in the sculpture. And what I want you to do is I want you to choose one that you are going to imitate with your stillness technique, which you have now perfected from 5 minutes ago. All right. So look at them and look at the expression, look at the shape of their body, their posture. Any feelings you see, you're going to want to try to show that, but pick one and then stand up where you are and make sure we can see you in your camera. And I want you to embody one of those characters. So if you would, take a moment and let me see your pose. Solid and still, little tiny breaths. You could see. Good. All right, relax out of it. My screen froze while you guys are doing that. So you guys were perfect. You were excellent. That's the best I've ever seen. All right, good. Okay. Now, that was great. Now, remember how you did that, because later in the lesson that I'm sharing, you will use that technique again. Okay? If we could go to slide 6, please, Amanda. All right. Today's big topic is arts integration. And in an arts integrated lesson, we have two things going on. We have an arts objective. For every objective, we have an assessment. So in this lesson, when we do it, we will be assessing both the arts and the non-arts standard as we go through the lesson. Now, arts integration, if we can have the next slide, please. Here's a definition of what I'm talking about. Arts integration is an approach to teaching and learning that uses the arts to explore general subject areas. Okay, that's simple. Students engage in a creative process which connects an art form and another subject area and meets the objectives of both the art form and the non-art form in the subject areas. Arts integration is related to arts education in schools, but differs from traditional arts education, which is arts for art's sake, which is just another topic, by integrating a traditional subject with the arts discipline. You need to know there are, just Google definition, arts integration. Several states have their own definition. So if you work in a different state as a teaching artist, you have to know what they think arts integration is. Some organizations have their own definition. Some leagues of artists have their own definition. Some commissions have their definition. And some state arts councils and state arts commissions have their own definition. And they are similar, but they have little differences. Now, one of the most popular ones is the definition created by the folks at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. So let's show you slide 8. This definition is good and sums everything up nicely. Okay, now let's go to the next slide, please. Arts integration is not a new idea. It's new to some people as they're teaching today, but the first publication describing the seamless interplay between the arts and core subjects taught in American schools was written by Leon Winslow in 1939. He wrote the book, The Integrated School Art Program. In 1972, Harry Braude wrote in his work, it's called Enlightened Cherishing, an essay in aesthetic education, that the arts strengthen the imagination. He postulated that this strengthened grasp of imagery held a central role in a child's ability to develop concepts, values, and language skills. Braude advocated the integration of his aesthetic education into all other subjects. Then, in 1979 and 85 and 94, Elliot Eisner wrote The Educational Imagination. And in his work, he states that the arts bring about a deeper understanding of the world due to their interactivity. It's like what Kayla was talking about yesterday about the qualities of a South Carolina graduate. Those world-class ideas are embodied in doing art. You can't avoid it. All right. He cites that the arts are important to varying types of cognition. Now, in the early 2000s, we had the No Child Left Behind legislation. And it described arts education as essential to every child's education. And it also included the arts as one of the core subjects. Then we have Robert Sternberg of Tufts University, who described successful intelligence as having three main components: practical, analytical, and creative. Now, Howard Gardner cites the creating mind as one of the five minds we will need in the future. And to cultivate such a mind, he says, we need an education that features exploration, challenging problems, and the tolerance, if not active encouragement, of productive mistakes. This is art. This is what we do. And if we use art in our teaching, we are engaging the students' minds to achieve everything that these scientists claim is important. All right. So if we'll stop the sharing for a minute. So what questions do you have about arts integration? That's Jeff's brief summary. There are entire books. I have a library over here of books about arts integration. What questions do you have after that?
I guess I wonder how much of this kind of theory and stuff do we need to have in order to like be a teaching artist? Is there a level of this that we need to achieve to be able to then be a certified artist, or just wonder about that process?
All right. It depends on what you want to do as a teaching artist. If you want to be a teaching artist who teaches your art, like I'm a mime, if I'm asked to come in and do a mime class, that's quite all right. If a writer wants to go in and do a writing class, that's all right. However, in order to pair it up with standards that some of my clients, the schools, are interested in, I parallel the mime with English language arts. There are huge similarities between theater and English language arts right off the bat. And so they are simple marriages. We all have plot. We all have beginning, middle, and end. We all have intention of the characters. We all have that has characters. So by my being able to communicate the interaction between theater and English language arts, I'm a much more hireable artist. Sometimes I am asked using theater to come in and work on social studies. And of course, as Betsy will tell you, that's another easy marriage because there are characters in history. There are a beginning, middle, and end. There are occurrences. There are events, right? Now, Box Brown. when he got himself out by sealing himself in a box. Mike Wiley has made a play about that. And he performs it regularly in schools. So the more versed you are in understanding how your art form can be integrated into other subjects, the more hireable you are. You don't have to do it, but I encourage you to have the fluency. So when you're talking to prospective clients, you can talk in this fashion. Kimberly, Amanda, do you want to chime in any way? How much do you think our teaching artists need to be able to do this?
Sure. I would say, exactly what Jef said. For as far as the certification through the South Carolina Arts Commission, we don't require arts integration to be a part of it. But I'll also mention that, yesterday we talked briefly about the difference between distinguished art program schools and ABC schools. There were different types of schools. ABC schools are a categorization of schools called Arts in Basic Curriculum. And they're basically schools that the entire school subscribes to arts integration. So everybody in that school, no matter what they teach, are trying to incorporate the arts into their teaching. So it'd be great for you to know, if you're going into an ABC school, to know and be able to talk about how your art form is integrating into other subject areas. Amanda, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, no, that is a really good point. And then I would add too, with our new grant category, with that teacher level grant I talked about a little bit yesterday, called the School Art Support Grant. We're really trying to encourage teachers to think about arts integration. And so they may be applying for money specifically to meet arts integration efforts within their school. So they're going to be potentially looking across the state for teaching artists that understand this concept. And with that grant category, in the past, it's been specifically for arts teachers. This grant category is open to non-arts teachers who want to do arts integration in their classroom. So they're going to be looking to teaching artists who understand that, because they, as a classroom teacher, they may not be the expert in the art form. They aren't going to be the expert in the art form. They're going to be looking to a teaching artist to be able to bring that into their classroom and meet those standards, in both subject areas. So it's something that we are definitely, as the commission, trying to encourage with some of our grant programs for next year too.
Thanks, you guys. All right, Anita asked, which books would be the most beneficial? All right, I have a whole shelf. I just picked 4. This is Smart Moves by Carla Hannaford, and the subtitle is Why Learning is Not All in Your Head. I love this book, and it's as much about neuroscience as it is about arts integration. Here's a chestnut, Frames of Mind by Howard Gardner. Now, this is a chestnut because his theory of multiple intelligences works with what we call differentiation. There are many ways that different people learn. And if you understand that, you can utilize your art form to be able to reach all of those children from frames of mind. They're called multiple, and everybody's different, okay? So the third one, Howard Gardner's later book, Intelligence Reframed. It's actually, the other book is probably about 20 years old, and this is a more recent one. And then another author, Eric Jensen, Teaching with the Brain in Mind. I like it because I like Carla Hannaford's book. You could take workshops with Mr. Jensen online, and he's a very famous speaker, and he's real pithy. but he's also accessible. If you want to learn about the science of teaching and how arts affect the brain, these people are good to read. They're not so erudite that you don't understand it. Does anybody else have any books that you like to offer? Okay, good. Does that answer your question, Dadelin?
Yes, thank you.
Good. What other questions do you have about arts integration?
Can I throw in one other resource? I'm sorry, Jef. I was just I'll drop it in the chat. I'm just gonna throw in a resource that you can find on either the ArtsGrowSC or the ABC Projects website that are research studies about arts integration and the value of arts integration within the school system. So if you are approaching a teacher or a school and they say, well, I don't really know if this is valuable, it might give you some tools to be able to talk about why arts integration is important and how it increases engagement.
And along those lines, there are dozens of articles, and some of them are getting pretty current. There's one of my favorite studies out of Norway lately affirms the fact that when you use a stylus, which can be a pen, a pencil, a paintbrush, you use 400% more of your brain than if you use a keyboard, a stylus. And so my question is, why are we using keyboards anyway? I know there's digital literacy, but if this does more for our brain, and if you know things like that, if you're a visual artist, study from Norway, right? Frozen again. All right, other questions? Frederick, you got your hand up.
Yes, sir. So like a lot of the things that I'm running into, I guess, is everybody's looking for database, and what my company does is just work on like the character building, like the message in the music. I have a lot of testimonials and stuff like that, but how do I guess get the data from the impact that is like the intangible?
One of my biggest suggestions would be there's a concept that is bandied about now called social emotional learning. And South Carolina, the Department of Education has fully embraced this concept of social and emotional learning. And I would recommend to you that you go to the South Carolina website for social and emotional learning in the Department of Education, and you will see all of the elements of character building that are embedded in this idea. And then you could talk about that. The reason I say that is because now when teachers teach lessons, very often on their lesson planning form, it says, how does this impact the social and emotional learning of the child? So that would be right away. The other place to look is in the curriculum, in the standards for healthful living. Physical education and health education are taught by the same people. And it's usually the gym teacher, but they also teach health education. And in health education, they deal with all of those confidence building, character issues, things like that. And I would look there for parallel ideas.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Anybody else have ideas? Amanda, Kimberly, Betsy, you do a lot with this.
I'm going to point back to that same link I just dropped, the ArtsGrowSC research and advocacy link that I dropped in the chat. There you're going to find all of that information is based in research and data. So you're going to find information about engagement levels of students who are learning about a particular subject through the arts. So you'll see some higher engagement levels. You'll also see information about student retention, so high school retention rates for those who are highly involved in the arts, that type of thing. So you should see that. And then I have also dropped in the link for that social emotional learning website in our chat box as well.
You're terrific. Thank you, Kimberly. All right, other questions about arts integration?
Yeah.
Yeah, Thad.
Well, I mean, about some of this though, for people that are kind of new, it's kind of like, I think if you're on this list, a lot of this stuff about having to try to sell everything so much, it seems to me like a lot of the people that are going to be coming to you it's like preaching to the choir. I think unless you're out trying to hustle completely new people, never done it, I would say probably people that are coming to the website already have some idea about all these things. It's sounding, it would be really overwhelming for all this, you know, to have to read 5 or 6 of these really intense books to come up with your ideas. So don't make it too complicated. Figure out what you want to do and simplify it down and make it interactive and have it be easily explained. And then I think people that are already kind of into it, you might not win over everybody, but people who experienced it would be more likely to say, well, this sounds like they know what they're doing and it'd be fun, a valuable experience. So that's all. That was just my, I guess that's not really a question, but.
Well, no, I like that thought because Thad, I want all of you and the rest of the arts to know you don't have to change anything that you do. You teaching your art embodies all of these other ideas. I'm just saying to be intentional about it. The more you know about how arts integration works, the more you can talk about that when you're presenting what you do. Does that make sense, Thad?
Oh yeah. I heard what you're saying. Yeah,
Cool.
Definitely.
Cool, but
it's
you're
good to
absolutely
know
right.
this vocabulary and sort of the language everybody uses. But the important thing is you got something you love to do that's interactive with kids.
Yes. Okay, Davelin, what makes one different from the other being in the list versus being a certified teaching artist? All right, Amanda, Kimberly, who wants to, you guys answer that.
Okay, so there are 2 different categorizations that we use in the South Carolina Arts Directory. Anyone who wants to be on the Arts Directory, whether you want to be a teaching artist or not, first has to apply to be on the directory. So you're first applying as an individual artist, not as somebody who's teaching necessarily, but somebody who's just an individual artist, whatever your art form may be. So you're applying to be on the directory. You're going to submit examples of your work product. You're going to tell us a little bit about yourself. And then you'll go through the directory certification process. So let me take the word certification away. You'll go through the directory process to get listed on the directory. And that is a juried process, which means there are people that review those applications, make sure that your work is high quality to be listed on the directory. Next, if you would like to go a step further, you can then fill out an additional application to be listed as a teaching artist. Now, in order to be listed as a teaching artist, you would then submit lesson plans and work samples of your teaching. Then that would be reviewed by the commission, the South Carolina Arts Commission team, and then you would then be listed as a certified teaching artist. So that teaching certification is just an additional step on our South Carolina Arts Directory. Does that clear it up?
And Davelin, as somebody who is on the directory and is a certified teaching artist, the sponsors look at that. That credential is important to some school systems. Some school systems have rules about, well, first of all, you have to be in the directory to be able to access any of the South Carolina Arts Commission funding. Nobody can hire you with South Carolina Arts Commission funds unless you are in the directory. That's first. But as a marketing instrument, my being a certified teaching artist, there are only 75 of those. 75 or 76 now. And some people, some school districts say that's who we want to work with our children, that they look for those credentials.
Thank you. It was just not clear. I've tried to do this over some years, and the process was I can't. So it's really good to hear that it's been kind of streamlined. And because I submitted an application recently. So yeah, thanks for clearing that up for me.
Excellent. All right. And John has asked, do you have any lesson plan examples? Amanda just put a box in, and we're going to do a lesson right now. All right. That's what I'm leading up to. I'm going to do an arts integrated lesson with you, and you are going to be the students. All right. So before I start, does anybody have any more questions about?
Jef, before you jump in, I put a link in the chat box. This is to the ArtsGrowSC.org website, and this is actually going to link you to the For Teachers page. There isn't for teaching artists, but this specific resource is under the For Teachers page. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see some professional development or professional learning kind of platforms. And there's one called One Stop Workshop, and it's an online conference app that you have to register for. It's not in real time. What it is, it's recorded sessions from all of these different arts-based conferences across the state, and they're being uploaded there. So there's a lot of content that's art specific, discipline specific, but there are also sessions on arts integration. So there's a bunch that have been uploaded, but if you search on there, there's some from even like ABC school principals that share about how they use arts integration throughout their school. There's some arts integration lesson plans from arts teachers that share how they use it in their classroom to integrate into like math and some of their other subject areas. So it's free and anyone can access it. You don't have to be a teacher to have access to it. So it may be something that is a resource that you all are welcome to check out. So yes, that link will bring you to that whole page. You have to scroll down just a little bit to get to that.
All right. Any other questions about arts integration? We're all totally confused now, right? Okay, we're going to go on. Now, I'm going to share with you an arts integrated lesson. So I want you to imagine that you are students in a high school social studies class. Okay, that's who you are. And please, no spitballs, no mice in my books or anything. I encourage you to play along with me. All right, so let's go to slide number 10, please, Amanda. All right, we are going to focus on a speech given by a president of the United States. This is Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He made this speech in 1941, and that is before the United States got involved in World War II. In it, he talked about 4 freedoms. All right, if we go to the next slide. And there are 6 parts to this, and I'd like us to read it aloud, but I'd like you to do the reading. If you would like to volunteer to be a reader, please raise your electronic hand so you go to the top of my column on my screen. So I want some volunteers here. No volunteers? Nobody wants to read? All right, Frederick will read. Who else will? Thank you, Frederick. Good. Kimberly will read. Excellent. Anita will read. I just need 3 more.
Let me know when you need one. I'm still trying to figure out how to raise my hand.
Okay, Thad will do one. Good. Okay, Thad.
Jeff, I can do it as well. I can't figure out how to raise my hand while I'm sharing my screen.
Two more. And you, okay, so Davelin, you will read, thank you. And Betsy, you have your hand up? Yes, okay, we have 6. Okay, let me assign you your parts. Anita, I want you to read the first part, In the Future Days to Human Freedoms. Frederick, I would like you to read The First Freedom Is. Kimberly, I would like you to read The Second Is Freedom Of. Davelin, I'd like you to read The Third Freedom. Betsy, I'd like you to read The Fourth Freedom. Fourth is Freedom from a Fear. And then Thad, I'd like you to read the ending, That Is No Vision. So when it comes your time, unmute and read. And Anita, we'll just start when you're ready. So unmute and.
In the future days, which we seek to make secure, we look forward to a world founded upon 4 essential human freedoms.
The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world.
The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way, everywhere in the world.
The third is freedom from want, which translated into world terms means economic understandings which will secure to every nation a healthy peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere in the world.
The fourth is freedom from fear, which translated into world terms means a worldwide reduction of armaments to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation will be in a position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world.
That is no vision of a distant millennium. It is a definite basis for a kind of world attainable in our own time and generation. That kind of world is the very antithesis of the so-called new order of tyranny, which the dictators seek to create with the crash of a bomb.
Pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? And this was in his State of the Union address on January 6th. And as I said, the United States was not yet into World War II. But as you can see, he's prepping everybody for the possibility that the United States would join in that. Imagine. All right, so let's go to the next slide, please. All right, 2 years later, in 1943, the famous artist Norman Rockwell made paintings of these 4 freedoms, and they were used in 4 consecutive Saturday Evening Posts, and they were on the cover of that magazine. We have freedom of speech in the top left, freedom to worship down there in the bottom left, and it's the only one that has words on it, by the way. Freedom from want, which is the top right with the turkey, and freedom from fear, tucking in the children. All right, let's look at each of these individually. All right, if we could go to the next slide, please. Freedom from speech. What do you see going on here? Either type it in the chat or raise your hand. And what's going on in this picture? Freedom of speech.
Looks like a working class person in a room full of folks who are not typically working class, at least by dress. Side note, there aren't any Black people here.
Exactly.
And there's one woman, it looks like. Well, I can't tell because, we don't know people's gender identity, but
Right.
it looks like
Very
that way.
good point. Very good point. He's not afraid. Anita says he's not afraid to get up and speak. Others are actually listening. Cool. Let's go to the next one. Freedom to worship. What do you notice? What do you see? And also Frederick said about the other one, that he is saying something that others want to say. Good, good observation. What about this one? What do you see? What do you notice? A range of ages. Yeah, good, Betsy. Good. Okay, then let's go on. Freedom from want. I love his prepositions. What do you notice? What do you see? Oh, and the other one, somebody said prayer. The smiles in this one. Yeah, Anita. This is a little sidebar. Oh, food, joy, family. Down in the bottom right where you see a portion of a head, very often Rockwell would put himself in his works, and that's Norman Rockwell down in the corner. Food, joy, family, good, good. And then freedom from fear, if we go. Looks like someone is telling a good story, yeah. Okay, this is freedom from fear. What do you notice? What do you see? Peaceful. Mom and dad in the same household, yeah. We have a nuclear family here. Horror in the newspaper, yeah, the headline is really important in this. Good observation, Amanda. Look at the newspaper, yeah. Okay, we're going to pay attention to one painting in particular. So if we could go to the next slide, please. All right, this is all of them. All right, and let's go to the next one. This is freedom from want, as Norman Rockwell saw it and printed it on the cover of a Saturday Evening Post magazine. I want you to look at all of the characters, and just like we did at the beginning of the day, I want you to assume the posture of one of these characters and try to copy it exactly. If it's one of the two standing ones, I'd like you to stand. If it's one of the seated ones, I'd like you to sit and show me the angle, but show me the expression, show me the character in your stillness. So make a choice of which one you're going to show. And then on the count of three, I want you to assume that pose. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Excellent. And look at the screen and look at all the different poses. Good, and relax out of it. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is, for whatever character you just created, if that character was saying something right at this moment, think to yourself, what might this character be saying? You just embodied them, but write it down on a piece of paper you have there with you. What might this character be saying at this moment You want, and Amanda, could you put the slide back up, with the picture? What might they be saying? Yeah, that one. Thank you. And then if you would, type it in the chat. What might they be saying? Now that you've got it, type your line, your contribution right into the chat. Hungry? So good to see you. I'm glad to be here. So good to see you all. I am so excited. Nice dress. Complimenting. As we do when the family is together. All right, is that it? Is that all the offers we have? Okay, if we could then, let's go to the next slide, please. All right, Davelin, I want to cue you up here because you're absolutely right. When Norman Rockwell made those paintings, he was playing to a certain audience in 1943, the people who read that magazine. So he painted the covers for that market. Now, recently, a few years ago, this is from an exhibit at the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. This is done by Hank Willis Thomas and Emily Schur, who noticed after looking at Rockwell's Four Freedoms that they were not in the picture. There was no representation of them in the picture. So they reimagined it and they made 4 versions of each. So a total of 16 different photo impressions using activists, artists, celebrities, and everyday citizens of varying religions, races, sexual orientations, ages, and genders in the picture. Right? So again, look at this picture and what are some of the things you notice about these people or characters in this picture? If you have an observation, either raise your electronic hand or type it in the chat. What do you notice? What do you see here in this picture? This is very cool. Uncle Jimmy, take that picture so we can eat. Anita, go ahead, unmute and tell us what you see.
I see a group of friends sitting at the table, happy to be there and sharing this meal together. It's a beautiful scene.
Yeah, and the head of the table are much younger than in the original, right? Mm-hmm. Nice observation, that's it. Community. Community, it's very much a community rather than a family. I like that. What do you notice? What do you see? The same smiles. Yes, Evelyn. Now we're going to do the same thing we did. I want you to choose a character and I want you to embody them. I'll count to 3 and I want you to choose the character and show me the still statue of that character with all the expression. So if you'll, everybody get yours in mind. And on the count of 3, I want you to embody them in stillness. The cute baby, very young children are in it, diversity. Ready? On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Excellent. Now, while you're in the pose, think, what might my character be saying? And then write it down. Everybody take a moment, write it down. Your one line that your character is saying. And then type it into the chat. Have a hey, cute baby. Ha 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 story. Congratulations. That's great. Nice, you guys. Nice. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm so proud and excited to feed my family. Nice. Great. Okay. So, if we could stop sharing, looks like you've grown a beard since I last saw you. I love it. I love it. All right. Now, I want to talk about this. I'm done with the lesson, right? And now we're going to reflect on it. All right. And what I'd like to do first, if you give us the next slide, please. Slide 20. These are the 3 standards that I chose for this lesson. And you'll notice I chose one from social studies, one from theater, right? And one from visual arts. The visual arts one was about analyzing pictures. Makes sense, we did that. The theater one was writing samples of a script. When you guys wrote your lines down and we put them, the next thing we would do is we would put them in an order and we would act them in that order. We would deliver the lines in order. So if we wanted to turn this tableau into a scene, we now have the language to do it. And then the social studies using a primary source. We used the words of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. We went into the original paintings used as covers of the Saturday Evening Post. And then we used the original work of reimagining Rockwell. So notice I did not choose a standard about writing because that really wasn't the focus. Yes, we did write, but it was more important to use it as a script. Right? Okay, so let's go back to being a group again. If you could stop the share. And this is a question for Amanda and Kimberly. Do you think we need to break out, or do you think we could have a small enough group that we can just talk? What do you think?
I think we can probably just talk with our group if you feel comfortable with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say stay together.
Okay, good. Then we'll stay together. What I want you to do is Amanda and Kimberly and I are not going to talk. All right. As a matter of fact, in a moment, I'm going to mute my microphone. I would like you all to talk to each other about the experience of being involved in that lesson. Think about what I did, how I began, what I asked you to do, any observations you have about the standards, right? And what you liked about the lesson, that's valid too, and why you liked it, right? Any of the content that you thought was important to this arts integrated lesson, and ways you can adapt and adopt or use the content and or the teaching style of the lesson in your own teaching practice. So Amanda, you have that to put in the chat, right? Those 3 big ideas, if you would, so everybody has them there. There you go. So I'm going to mute, and Amanda's muted, and Kimberly, but you guys talk to each other about this.
Well, first off, I like the illustrations, the interactive in it, is one of the good things about the lesson. How you taught was a good thing of being on Zoom. It wasn't just sitting here, just listening. You had to really be engaged. So I like the engagements. It showed how you can do it online, be engaging online.
Yeah, I like that too. We all had to pay attention because when you said, okay, everybody's going to read one section at the very beginning, we all had to make sure we didn't miss our section, right? And then we had to listen to that section. So I like that you had us reading, you had us observing, you had us moving into different positions, and then commenting. So we were using all various senses to do what we were doing. Our bodies, our words, our eyes to observe. So that was pretty cool.
It was particularly effective in a virtual setting. I mean, this lesson works exceedingly well when you're looking at a screen because we can frame ourselves to the screen itself. But I can see how that would also work within the classroom when we're allowed to be closer than 6 feet. Because you could set this up as a full group. Everybody moves around the room and creates that picture.
Yeah, I liked how it kicked off. Everybody got a part, but it wasn't too threatening. The first part, just reading your part was a good way to kind of break the ice with it.
Mm-hmm.
It also, I really like the new art, the reimagined art, being able to address the fact that, yes, we didn't have diversity in the original Rockwell. However, it still applies to families of all kinds, and being able to, bring that into current is very helpful, very useful.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting the way that, and for me as a visual artist, to be able to take an older piece of art from whatever time period and to bring it into modern times and see how it applies today. I think that's very that was really neat. In all the different ways, because your art form is theater, but you were able to integrate the social studies into it. I thought it was very intelligent to provide a speech from Roosevelt, and then talk about what happened in those times, and then make us move in different directions, and it was very well done.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I like too that you answered our questions, answered them, not just a broad statement. Really enlightened me. And it's funny you bring up Franklin D. Roosevelt because my initials is FDR. So, my mom used to tell me that Franklin D. Roosevelt Bridge, because I'm from New York, she used to tell me that bridge was named after me. But as I got older, I found out it was Franklin D. Roosevelt. So.
I liked hearing everybody's comments, because we all kind of have our own perspective, but hearing other people with different perspectives, and then that really came back around full circle when we saw the art that had been updated to the dynamics of the day, where more culturally diverse in the last Thanksgiving picture, but just hearing everybody be able to comment upon it kind of started to open me up to thinking about it other than just you know, from my usual viewpoint.
Yeah, I think also it's a good way. You know, one of the things about this lesson plan is it was fun and it was engaging. So it's a good way to engage kids, because most of the time I've done a lot of subbing at school, and you walk in there with a lot of kids that are so detached from what's going on. They don't want to be there. They just want to stare at their phones. They don't care what you're saying to them. But getting them to participate, getting them to stand up, getting them to move, getting them to laugh, that's one of the best things that you can do when you're teaching.
I'm always interested in seeing what other artists are doing, and so I can learn from that. I always think it'd be great to go in and watch other artists work, because I can see what they're doing and maybe steal a few things too. One of the things I use, and it looked like Jef was using the same thing. I like to go in the classroom and warm the classroom up a little bit with examples, and that way I can introduce what I'm doing, and that seems like exactly what Jeff's doing. And then there's a section I try to spend a little bit of time exploring, and we definitely did that in this lesson plan. And then there's a develop stage where that last half of the time that I have, they're actually developing, and we did that too as well. And I try to leave a little bit of time for evaluation as well. That's what we're doing here right now. So they seem to all kind of fall in line. I like the way you took integrated all of the several art forms as well. We need to do a little bit more of that. One thing I want to ask Jef is when you offer, do you formally give the standards like a form or a letter after your residency? Do you do it before, or is it informal? Does that make sense?
You're muted, Jef.
You're muted, Jef.
I was having a hard time hearing you, John, and so I want to make sure I understand. You were talking about the standards that I chose, and you were asking when did I choose them, or how did I make it? What did you ask?
I'll lean in a little bit closer here so you can hear me. I hope you can hear me a little bit better. I was just wondering, when you give the standards to the teachers, do you do that formally in a letter or process or a form or something? I have covered these standards. We covered these and these. How was that done for you?
Okay. Some organizations and schools ask for my lesson plan before I arrive. And if they do that, I tell them the standards I will be paralleling in that lesson plan, because that's a part of my lesson planning. If you notice, when I did the exercise, I did not use what is deemed as proper educational procedure today. What we're taught is you're supposed to tell the students what they're going to learn. Then you're supposed to teach the lesson. Then you're supposed to reflect upon what you told them you were going to learn. I don't do that because of theater. Theater is about awe and wonder and investigation and surprises. And so in this exercise, I would
He's doing the exercise again.
and in my I know I froze. And then I would at the end of my residency, I provide a post-residency document. And in that document, I illuminate all of the standards that I used. And if they ask where I use them, I parallel that. But that's always a part of what I send to the client at the end. And I do that because they got a grant to bring me in. They have to do a final report. They have to prove in some
It's a good post.
That what I did was based on what I said was, are you coming back? What I said was, the client has to prove to Amanda and Kimberly at the South Carolina Arts Commission or the ABC project that my lesson was standards-based. So I do provide them at the end. Definitely, they're all in my written document.
And I liked,
Go ahead.
I liked because of what we were taught yesterday, I was able to just go into the PDF of the standards with that just simple code and find it in the standards because I understood how it broke down now. Used to be, it was just like, I don't know what these letters and numbers are. And you were just scrolling through hundreds of pages trying to find them. But now it's like, oh yeah, that's creative. That's intermediate level. Okay, yeah. So thank you for that.
And one thing about all the standards, they are a PDF file. And so do you guys know how to search a PDF file? You press Control F and a little box appears at the top and you type in what you're searching for, like Franklin Roosevelt in the social studies standards, and it will take you on the document. If Franklin Roosevelt is mentioned, it's there. Or you might type in World War II. But you'd use the Control F function, and that's how I go through those, because all of those are huge. And when you get to the science standards, it's K through 12. They don't divide it. They don't divide it into elementary, middle, and it's K through 12 science standards. And you're trying to figure out, well, when do they do action reaction, right? And so you have to search those files. But it's also good to go through them. You learn where things are by examining it. And we've already moved into the next part of this. What questions do you have of me about the What questions do you have of me about the lesson? What do you want to know? This is a chance you have. I don't believe so, but I'll drop a link to the PDF. Kimberly, you can print any page.
Yeah, Anita was asking if you could purchase written copies of the standards. You would probably end up with a bookshelf full of books that are constantly changing. But the Department of Education does post those on their website. They're free to access, and you download it. So you could print if you want to be able to highlight, or if you like the tactile nature of paper. But yeah, Jeff's looks like he's got a printout there himself.
This is just the visual and performing arts.
Yeah.
And she'll hold yours up, Kayla. Hold yours up, John. Yeah.
Yep.
And show how thick they are. Show how thick they are. Turn it sideways. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you could imagine that for every single subject.
I asked my district to only
Dance
print
standards,
all
Kayla?
so for me, I'm dance. So I only have dance, design, and media arts. And they did this for each of our arts teachers to only include their art form and then design and media art so that we didn't have that giant book.
Right. I did a workshop once at the Arts Integration Conference, and I did make copies of all of the standards for the people to use. And I used a hand truck to bring it in. It was about 4 feet, linear feet. And we used them that one time, and I realized how dumb that was. Yeah.
I've just dropped a link to the Department of Education's instruction and standards there. So that's the standards for every subject. So you can go in and see, you can always bookmark that link and find any subject matter you need.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions of me about the exercise?
Yes. How do you come up with the game plan to set it up? You know what I'm saying? Because I know I heard you say you also cater to whatever that they got going on. You can create a package for it. So how do you go about doing that?
Well, it depends. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about where do you start, right? And if I can, Frederick, let me answer that after we do our next exercise, okay? Because I'm going to have you design something, and then I'm going to talk about using design in a lesson planning process. So if I may, I'll answer that in a second, okay? All right. So let's go on. All right. We're going to shift gears. I'd like you, Amanda, if you would give me the next slide, please, slide 22. We should all take on. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, make fun of my freezing. Anita, thank you. I like that idea. Okay, so Amanda, are you here? We go. All right, and then I want to do this because it takes over when I do that. Okay, keep going to the next one because we didn't break up. This is the one I want. All right. What I want you to do is I want you to think of an object from your childhood. Now, all of these kids have stuffed animals, but it can be any object, any toy, anything, anything from your childhood that's memorable, right? And it can be meaningful or memorable. I want you to think of it. Make a choice. And what I want you to do is, on a piece of paper, I want you, like these kids did, make a sketch of it. Just a simple sketch of that object. And that's all it is, the outline. I'm going to do one too. So right now, I want you to take a sheet of paper and a pencil or a pen and make a sketch of that object. And if we can, let's go back to the gallery now. Yeah, let's go back to the gallery now, Amanda, if we may, please. And hold your picture up to your camera so we can see it. Share your sketch. Cool. Nice. All right, let's put them down. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold them up one at a time. And when the person holds up their sketch, I want, that person cannot talk, but I want everybody else, if you have a comment or an idea or a thought or a question, I want you to write it in the chat, right? So that we can see it. So Anita, you put yours up first, please. Hold it up so we can see it. And I have a question. I'm going to type it in. Tree swing, I need it. Yeah. you stood up while swinging. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a beautiful tree. Can I swing with you? Were you living on a farm or out in the country is a question. Look at how this is stimulating us. Did someone push you on the swing? Nice. Favorite place. Cool. All right. Thank you, Anita. And Betsy, hold yours up. I had a rope ladder to climb my tree. Yeah, Sheila. Okay, thank you. Oh, yeah, a lot
Yes.
of us have that same question.
It was my brother's bunny. He's 10 years older than I am, so I got it very well loved.
Looks like a well-loved bunny. Yeah. Was it a hand puppet?
No, it was just a baggy bottom. Didn't really have back feet, just the
Cool.
fronts.
Cool. How big was it? What color was it?
Dirt colored kind of. There was some semblance of yellow still in it, pale yellow, like baby yellow. And it was maybe about a foot tall if you stretched it out.
Frederick says that's an amazing memory you have to draw like that. Great. Thank you, Betsy. Sheila, let's see yours. Oh, is it a bear, a teddy bear? I love the paws. Or is it a sock monkey?
No, it's a bear. It
Looks
was
like you're
very
waiting for a
soft
hug.
and big. It was a big bear. I won it at a fair.
The question
Yes,
is,
he
was it
was
your
my
favorite?
teddy bear. I took him to camp.
Cool. All right, Evelyn.
I won it at
Playhouse? Did you win? Oh, a dollhouse?
Yes, there's a Barbie doll house. I was lucky. Yes, it is the one with the elevator. That's the side.
Dollhouse.
It was definitely fancy.
Now, did you play with friends in your dollhouse?
My little sister, yes, all the time.
Okay. It looks fancy.
It was fancy for sure.
Was all right. Thank you, Davelin. All right, John, let's see yours. And go ahead and unmute as we put up our thing so you can respond. If you talk when holding up, you'll go big screen. Okay. Now, a musical instrument, a guitar, okay?
There's a lot in the background too.
Yeah, a lot of people want to know if it was your first.
Yeah, this is a guitar. I had an old guitar at the house when I was about 4 or 5 years old. It really didn't have, it might have had a couple strings on it, I don't remember. But I would use it and act like I was playing and singing and everything else. So, yeah.
Did you teach yourself?
In part, yes. Most of the instruments were self-taught, but I had some help along the way. But that one there was just, I think it's my dad's old guitar that he never played. He played a little bit maybe, but and I ended up, playing with it more than playing it at all. But I was doing the big show thing.
Cool. It looks like a child would do it. It looks like it has a face. The bridge is a mouth with the hole in the nose. Yeah. Had a lifelong effect.
Fun, fun, fun to memory.
No?
I don't know if he heard you.
Frederick, what did you draw? Show it to us, please.
Okay, hold on. I had to get my stuff together.
Okay.
I can't draw, so don't
That's
judge me.
Oh. CD or record player? Somebody wants to know.
A CD. It was one of my first CDs that I bought myself when I was younger.
What was it?
My favorite artist, her name was Aaliyah. And I bought her first album, and she still has a lifelong effect on how I create music.
Davelin says, I love her too.
Yes, she was the best.
Great. What John wants to know, what's a CD? Thank you, John.
It was her, what was the name of her first CD? It's the one that got Are You That Somebody? That was like her biggest hit off the song, off the album. I'm drawing a blank right now, but I still listen to this day, but it's off the record that got Are You That Somebody? So if you listen to Are You That Somebody by Aaliyah, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Here's a couple questions. Did you use earphones? What kind of love?
Yes, I had the headphones. I had the Walkman.
Walkman.
I had to cut grass, and you got to think I'm coming from New York, so I didn't know nothing about cutting grass. But I had to cut grass. I had to cut grass to get it. I think I paid. It was $15.99. It was $15.99 that I bought it. And
did you play it in a boombox?
No, I played Walkman. Walkman was like that's what I could have on the bus and going to school.
Oh.
Yeah, you had to have a AAA battery.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Frederick. All right, Thad, show us your drawing, friend.
Oh, wait a minute, I can't see myself. I gotta
I
get
know,
my,
you gotta hold it up.
there we go, wait a minute. There, can you see me?
Yeah. Is it a magic show? Somebody wants to know.
No. That little thing behind it's a bird bath.
Okay, it's a bird bath.
But I'm holding something.
Is that a broom?
It is a broom.
That's what Kayla wanted to know. Good.
It's
And
this old
how
broom.
is this memorable, Thad? What makes this memorable to you?
Well, it's this funky old broom that must have been 50 years old my grandpa had, and he used it to scrub out the bird bath, and it got so worn down there was only about an inch of bristles left, but people came up during the Depression, didn't throw anything away. And I just always remember the sound of him scrubbing out that bird bath, the rhythm that those bristles made. And so, I don't know, you said a memory, and that's what popped in my head.
That's good. That's good. And it's an object. It fulfills the criteria. That's
It's no
really
teddy
neat
bear,
memory. It says, yeah, great. And Max, are you there? Could you show us what you drew?
I'm actually in the car right now, so
Okay.
I can't draw.
That's fine. I appreciate it. And then we have somebody on a phone who's listening, and I'm hoping that if you're driving, you're not drawing either. Can we hear your voice to affirm that? Maybe not.
Alicia from yesterday, she sent me an email that she was listening by phone today because she was traveling.
Okay. Well, okay, you guys, that was great. Now, what you have done is you have just designed and created a sketch from memory. In educational language, we call this the design process. Okay, we do. That you have just completed a design exercise. If I could have the next slide, please. Slide 24. Keep going, this one. Yeah. Okay. In design thinking, you notice there are some people say there are 5 processes, some people say 6, some say 7, some say 9. Well, the big thing I want you to understand, and this goes back to your question, Frederick, you can start anywhere. We started by thinking of a memory and drawing a picture. And that's where we started it. You made a prototype. I did not ask you to make a 3D replica of it. I asked you just to make a sketch. So what you did was you ideated, which meant you thought about it. That's what that language means. I defined what I wanted you to do. So that was the problem. What do I create? You ideated it. You created the prototype. And then we all empathized with it. And when you are creating something like a lesson plan, you can start anywhere. All right? And that's the big thing to understand. You can start anywhere. So what I'd like to do, since we're at 5:40, I'd like to go to slide 29, please, Amanda. Okay, that go to the back one, go to 28. I want to have the lesson planning form, that one. Okay. Frederick, when you start a lesson, sometimes you start it by saying, I want to do this, right? And that was where we started with this. And that's called the description of instruction for the lesson. I gave you an idea and you did it, right? So that's where we started. We did not start at the top in the left, which is unfortunately the way many of us think. When we're given a form like this, we say, oh, I have to start at the top. No. You can start anywhere. You can start with the standards, which is about the 5th thing down, that big thick one. You can start with the college. If you know a standard that you want your students to know, you could start there and then say, okay, how do I relate that to my art? Right? And you can also do the reverse. You can say, I want to teach them this rhythm. And so then you go, okay, that is the description of instruction. I want them to do this rhythm. So what's the learning target? What do I want them to learn about that rhythm? Right? Sometimes we are told by our people who hire us, I want you to focus on this subject, like as a social studies subject, and I had the 20s. So I knew the standards and the learning targets. That's what I, and so you start there and then fill in all of these other things. Because the lesson plan, and this is the one that a lot of people in South Carolina use, right? It's called a CLIA form, which stands for Curriculum Leadership Institute in the Arts. And this is the form they use. And the one that I use is a little more forgiving. I don't have boxes, I just have words on it. But I show you this because it has teacher procedures. You may know what you want to do. I want to do this, right? And I want to do it like this. So when I asked you online to think of something and then draw, right? That was the student tasks. And then we went from there with that design idea. Okay. So let's go back to the gallery, Amanda, now that we're there. So what does, Frederick, does that answer your question about where do you start? How do you do it? Or would you like more?
No, that definitely helped me out. Like I can start anywhere and just build out from wherever I start.
Exactly.
And you did help me out with saying, because we do, and I think it's the school system, we are trained to start from the top to the bottom, to the right, to the left. So when you see paperwork, you start where you start, you know what I mean? So when you said that enlightened me to start anywhere, you know what I mean? So thank you.
And online, you can find a lot of, those are called lesson plan templates. And you can just Google them. Different states, different there are school districts that have a specific form. And every teacher has to fill out that form. There are states that suggest that all of the school districts have use this form. I don't know how successful they are, but when the teachers, I don't know if you know this, but teachers very often have to turn in their lesson plans either for the next week or the next month, or sometimes for the entire quarter. We don't have to do that. We have to, as artists, we're there for a week, basically. I've done in my life 1 6-week residency. I've done 4 4-week residencies. I've done 8 2-week residencies, and all the rest are 1-week residencies. That's what I've been asked to do. And I looked at that just so I could say that to you today. So when you have to plan, that's usually what we're planning for, is 1 week, the lessons with 5 contacts with the same students every day. And then Kayla, why don't you unmute and say that, please?
So when I'm writing out my lesson plans, and I get to do it every day for the full school year, 180 days, I like to start out with the goal for the lesson, thinking about what do I actually want these students to be able to do by the end of it. Then of course I go and check to make sure that there's a standard to go with it, and I write the learning targets based on that. And then thinking about the activities that I want to use to be able to accomplish that goal. Sometimes I do think about like the activities, if I want them to be able to work with a partner, then how can I have them work with a partner? Ooh, can we connect that to magnets and push and pull? Or could we connect that to positive and negative space? And then I go with which direction I need that to happen. But really thinking about the goals will help you, especially when you want to narrow down your standards, because y'all, there's a lot of standards out there. So if you think about that goal, then that helps you to narrow it down and get your learning targets written.
Great. John, Thad, you want
I'll be glad to show you one of my lesson plans, just kind of what I do. This is one of my plans for a class. It's got the shiny stuff on it, and it is for storytelling theater, and so I'll write up what the title is, and then I'll list the standards there at the very top what I'm covering. Sometimes it's English. I don't know what's on this one. I don't even know what the lesson is. And then I break it down to warm up, where I see the students, and then explore and develop all through that lesson. So if I'm teaching in a classroom, or if somebody calls me up and they say, we would like you to come for a week, I start pulling from my book what I'm going to do that week, depending on what their needs are. And so once I develop a lesson plan, I write it up. So I may go back and use it again and again. Some of my lesson plans I've used a bunch of times. I'm sure Jeff's done the same thing, and Thad's done the same thing as well. Just to share that with you, you know.
Cool. Great. Thanks for sharing. Thad, did you have something to say?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of like you were talking about the 6 weeks and 2 weeks, but what's really unique about, I think, these programs in South Carolina is a lot of places, they don't even think about arts integration of more than just bringing somebody in one time. So if you really like working with kids, having an opportunity to work with a progressive skill building like this is what I find really neat about it. And it's you guys are doing something that's a little rare. A lot of places, they'll call it arts integration and a bunch of big names, but it's more like just a performance, you know. But I just love having this opportunity to, you know, work with kids like 5 days in a row and build the things and build the skills. And of course that means you're always reevaluating and things are adapting to the level of the kids each time. But yeah, to me, that's the big difference between just a performance and the arts education stuff, and that's what really excites me about it, is that opportunity to see kids grow. And it's really spontaneous because, like you were talking earlier, different people come in on different levels of things, so you got to be kind of ready to move on your feet and adapt. But
great.
That's all.
Thank you, Thad. Sheila, you got your hand up.
So, can you all hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? So when I go into a school, I actually post what the standards are that I'm addressing in the school. And so this is an example of one of the posters that I have. And this is for North Carolina, but I put it up on the wall and it stays up for the whole week. And I don't know, can you read that okay? Yeah.
Cool.
So
You put it up on the wall in the classroom?
yeah, I go into the classroom. The first thing I do is I put this up on the wall and I say, this is our goal to do these things. And I just put them on, these are just old folders I put them on. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Sheila. Frederick.
Too, I like Jef, how you gave the terminologies, the certain terminologies I can use, because I travel, you know what I'm saying, to different states, and these terminologies is universal, like the social emotional learning. That's going to be very effective into what I do, because I am I say one time sometimes in your school because I'm writing the school anthems. But to be effective in why it's important for me to have me in your schools is very important, because I don't think they really understand the impact that the type of things that I'm doing right now is. But me having the wording, you teaching me the wording to say would make them connect, even though they don't understand what I'm doing in front of them at that point in time. They understand when I leave, but for them to say, yo, we need you here, you definitely helped me out with the terminology to use. And thank you.
Excellent, excellent, good observation. All right, everybody, we're getting to the point where we're gonna wrap this up. So does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask? Either write them in the chat or raise your hand. Anita, or you're clapping or you have your hand up.
I think I pushed the wrong thing. I'm sorry. I put my hand up. I wanted just to say, so we're all in South Carolina, but maybe I know Frederick is in Spartanburg. I'm near Spartanburg too. It would be nice to connect with some of the other teaching artists in kind of our regions of South Carolina. So if there's anybody else here that's from the Spartanburg, Greenville area and would like to get together, we can get together for coffee, lunch, and throw ideas around, maybe help each other with some of these things. I kind of think that would be cool. I can put my information in the chat if anybody wants to connect. It might be fun.
I love this. Yeah, Anita, put your information in there, and everybody who's interested, contact Anita and she'll be the ringleader. I love it. Kayla had to leave and Davelin had to leave, but I fully understand. All right. There's Anita's contact information or phone number. Is that your cell phone?
Yes.
Yeah. Sheila, tell them about the league. Unmute and tell them about the league.
I'd be happy to. In North Carolina, after the International Teaching Artists Collaborative meeting that happened in a year and a half ago, the North Carolina teaching artists that attended that formed the League of North Carolina Teaching every week on Zoom. And I tell you, it's just like a support group for teaching artists. It is so helpful. Anybody that has a question, what we were just talking today about, which is why I was late for this meeting, about the Durham Arts Council's latest application form and what a drag it was and and how messed up it was. And it was just very helpful to, support from each other. So I encourage you all to get together either in person or whether you're in the Spartanburg area or anywhere, just meet on Zoom and once a week and talk to each other and tell each other what's going on and help each other out. It's just been great for us. Thanks, Jef.
Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you
So yeah, communicate, educate, proliferate, right? That's good stuff. All right, if we could, we're gonna close out now. I hope it's okay. We're gonna have to, I feel like I'm singing the end of the Mickey Mouse Club song. Now we have to say goodbye to all our family. So if we would, if you could bring up slide 31, Amanda. The last one. All right. I would like to thank Amanda, our pilot today, Kimberly, our co-pilot, both from the South Carolina Arts Commission. I'd like to thank all of you artists and teaching artists who have attended. And I want to encourage you, remember, you cannot access any of these funds. You can't be hired by any of these organizations unless you are on the South Carolina Arts Directory. So get yourself, do the work, get listed. I'd like to thank everybody at the South Carolina Arts Commission. I'd like to thank everybody at the South Carolina Department of Education. I'd like to thank Kayla Jennings, who was one of our speakers yesterday. I'd like to thank Roger Morrison, who was another speaker yesterday. I'd like to thank all of the folks at the South Carolina ABC project, and particularly the people who are funding the brand new idea of funding in South Carolina. the ArtsGrowSC program. $20 million, you guys, and they're going to need a lot of teaching artists. So let's get to work. All right. Kimberly has put up 2 more links in the chat. So if you're copying the chat before we turn down here, get that information. You know how to copy the chat. Hit the little 3 dots down there. You have a little on by everyone. There's a little piece of paper, a smiley face, and the 3 dots, and you can copy the chat right down there. Okay. But until we see you again, do good work. Make us proud. All right. Thank you very much.
Hey, it's Alicia. Thank you. I just got to my destination. Thanks for hosting. I know I wasn't writing down and making sketches while I was driving.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Hey, for the links in the chat, would it be possible to email those since I haven't been able to be on the computer? I'm just on my mobile.
Sure. I just saved the chat. I can send them to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Everybody take care.